none, we'll move on to administrative reports.
Thank you, Mrs. Shaw. Administrative reports are included in the board packet. I think I draw your attention to the proposal that was presented to me by Green Key Solar. I know it's one of the things that we talked about over the years, is potentially doing something with our farmland behind the school. I met with this particular group. They approached me with the land. There are other companies out there that I'm aware of. Questions from the board about this particular proposal. Is this in line with what we thought we might be looking at a couple years ago when we talked about investigating solar? So this is a ground solar array. It would take about 20 acres of the land back toward the common easement. So that's the land we're talking about on the back side of the property, the south side. It would be a lease program. They would pay us per acre. And then they also want to tie into the array, save money, and also be available to people in the Prairie community as a way for them to save money on utility bills as well. The program that they have cited is indeed a correct program. Currently, Illinois is available for that type of activity. Is this something the board is interested in pursuing? At least having further discussion with another two companies.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it doesn't cost us money, it would save us money, and we sound good. Sound good for the environment. I mean, I would be looking into more about it. Anybody else?
I agree. I think comparing options would be helpful.
Yeah, I was just going to say I concur with both sides. It's first and foremost potential land use for the school. We're talking about leasing the land, harvesting energy, and then also helping the community. It would be a big miss if we didn't explore this.
Excellent. I will contact a couple other companies that I know do the same type of work and have a conversation with them and get proposals for comparison and come back to the board in a month or two with an update. Any other questions on anything in the ag reports?
Just wanted to connect the staff on curriculum. It's been a very, very long time since we had this like full experience of doing a curriculum night. So thank you. It's awesome.
The question, Mr. Carlson?
It's just going to be more of a call out with regards to all the efforts that PTO are doing around Palooza. I know we've already capped out the original goal and we're looking to do a reset. So exciting times for the school, and the profit is going towards, is it the playground?
That's my understanding, correct.
Okay.
New playground. As you can see in the report, the phase 1 construction project is almost to its end now. We've spent $6.2 million. What was budgeted on that? 7.3 total. There should be 1, maybe 2 more months of the final payouts on that project before it's wrapped up and completed. It is currently on track and under budget. Having said that, the next item on our list of my report is a conversation with Stuart Brodsky. Mr. Brodsky is the principal architect of White & Company. He has been with the district now for a number of years as our lead architect. And 2 months ago, a conversation about the next phase of our project. It's a phase 2 project. It's a renovation. And so tonight, Stuart is back with us. I've updated the plans. We want to share with the board the update.
Thank you. You hear this okay?
Yeah.
Excellent. So we're we'll talk about phase 2. And I think the last time we were here, we loosely had a similar sort of presentation, but maybe not as ordered and structured as we now have, figured a few things out and have a little bit more detail. So I'll kind of go through that as we progress. Phase 2 will consist, actually I forgot, clicker's not working. I do have my pointer working. So This is a similar slide to what we looked at the last time, and essentially outlines the scope that will be associated with what we're going to call phase 2A. So phase 2A, meaning, would be constructed summer of '23. So drawings we're working on now, we're in the schematic design phase. The approximate schedule looks like this. It's not an extremely large project, so the phases are going to go quicker than, maybe even a little quicker than they did last year when we were doing phase 1, but not a whole lot different. We're just going to get out to that a little bit earlier. So during the month of October, finishing up schematic, those drawings would go to ICI, construction manager, who would then do a cost estimate to verify where we are. I'll talk about a few possible scope options tonight, some technical issues associated with that, some things that we'll discuss with ICI and the district. Design development, we develop things in a little bit more detail. That would be another printing milestone, another cost estimating milestone. But by the time this cost estimate is done, we'll pretty much be ready to go to bid. We'll just be verifying around target with the agreed upon expenditure for this phase. So 2A, we've been characterizing it as minimal north wing and selective elementary renovation. So what that means is mandatory health, life, safety items that are still remaining that were category B and C, and that need to get done as soon as possible. And now we've identified some possible improvements to the building that could be performed with carefully looking at it to make sure we're not going to be undoing things when we come back in the future and adding the building to future renovations. So essentially these are adjustments to the master plan in that way in terms of the sequence. So these are the categories of the kind of work that would happen for the summer '23 project. I'll go into a little bit more detail about that. I think you have seen this before, but we'll talk about it in general. There's a lot of work associated with replacing doors and hardware for any number of reasons. Either the hardware itself is not functioning properly or needing code. Some of the doors are in disrepair, don't open properly, are causing challenges related to that. And some doors that have what's called wired glass, it's that glass where you see the process lines, it's not allowed to be on any entrance or exit, anywhere where we're trying to get out of the building quickly. So it's a safety related issue in that regard. So when we do that, some of the doors don't swing in the direction we'd ideally like, because maybe they're getting in the way of circulation in the hallway or presenting some functional challenges, so we'll be correcting that. I've got a little bit more detail on that in a moment. Talked about there's some additional glazing in other areas that are wired glass adjacent to exit doors. There's not a lot of MEP work, but there is some plumbing work to put some floor drains in single-use toilet rooms. The other kind of minimal renovation that's happening are toilet room improvements. The toilet rooms, although there isn't anything in particular in the code that's telling you, and what I mean are these large group toilets. There isn't anything in the code that's telling you you have to do it, but they're in disrepair. Finishes are failing, they need to be updated. In some cases, you don't have full accessibility standards met. So we'll be working on correcting that. So it's a full facelift, full redo of those bathrooms. There's a fair amount of brick repair and replacement. We've talked a lot about that in the past. I'll show you some. Fire separation correction, these are things you don't even see. They just happen to be places where above the ceiling, maybe the wall doesn't go all the way to the roof deck, so doesn't provide smoke and fire separation like it should, or the rating it should have. Some of that's highlighted in some of these colored lines. So again, it's above the ceiling, the kind of things you don't tend to see, although the door assemblies in the oldest part of the building, you can see those actually are complete fire rated separations. Structural settlement foundation investigation. In this corner, there's some cracking that's evident inside and outside of the building. It's been there for quite a while, so I'm likely not going anywhere, but the associated top plating, brick repair, and then we'll take a structural look at things to see what it might be contributing to some of that movement. We're talking about toilet rooms, some flooring replacement. Some of that is aesthetic and functional. Some of it is just because it's in disrepair. We're looking at some flooring replacement possibly in the multi-purpose room that might help people navigate where circulation is as opposed to isn't, because it's going to remain as a path to move through the building for quite some time. We talked about the main lobby to really put some nice improvements in there from a lighting and flooring standpoint, so that it's the first impression walking in, and it's properly lit, and it's in good condition. So there'll be some selective improvements there. There's some window replacement that were items that were in the facility conditions assessment that all they're at under, so they're in need of replacement. And then I think we kind of talked through some of the ceilings. So that's in general the characterization of the scope. There are a few other items I'll get to in a moment. And these are just some images. The doorways in the 59 building, you can see that the white glass, the wood, you can actually see some gaps through there. So those really should be a 1 hour corridor separation in classrooms. This is the window replacement in the elementary wing, the space that you're familiar with. In the corner of the building, we talk about where there's structural settlement that's evident in both brick and block on the inside. And then some images of flood. So just some of the things that you experience on a daily basis, just bring.
Yes, so just for clarification, I know we talked about this before, but the reason we're replacing the doors and hardware in the late 1950 wing is because it's not sprinkled. And so we need to make sure we have a 1 hour, full 1 hour fire-rated corridor, and we currently do not with the gaps that currently exist in the wood and connected to the masonry.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, so it is in fact health and safety violation.
The replacing of the windows, is that going to require some asbestos abatement also, or are those windows not?
I think based on that vintage, I don't think so, but I think that's a good note. We could have that. We could confirm that should be in the hazmat report, the annual report. If it did, it could easily be achieved in a method of somewhere without disturbing anything.
Could you define?
Yes.
You said end useful life relative to the windows. Could you define what exactly that means, and then what we would gain from efficiencies relative to new windows?
Yeah, we would replace them with new aluminum frame windows with dual glazing, thermally broken. The best RD validation you get with the glazing. They would be sealed and caulked properly. Those would be the types of improvements. Honestly, I need to go back into the assessment report and look at some of the detailed issues, why they were called for replacement now. Some of the others may be specific, maybe they don't operate properly.
So some probably just broken handles, not operating properly, as you said, but we should be able to recognize some efficiency gain.
Certainly, comfort and efficiency. Glazing today, the technology has come a long way in terms of the resistance values, the shade coefficients, comfort, things like that. Air infiltration in particular. Just some images of what, some of the potential ways to improve the doors. This is an example of the doorway in the 59 section that's kind of at an angle swinging out. We're going to go ahead and totally recess it with just the right angle wall and side light so that we can get a full depth swing back. And then there's a door 134 where the column is pretty close to the door. We'll move the door over. This shows just enough. There's another possibility of fully moving it over because I think there's kind of this concrete wall now. That we need to add a set of doors that will just simply remain open but provide a proper horizontal exit down here until such time we either break through there or areas of the future project, or it will just simply be a condition that will satisfy the code, but you generally won't know it's there. So there's some work and detail associated with that. There is some remaining masonry work where you see the mesh that is fastened to the brick up above this wall. I mean, it's rough. So that brick will be replaced with masonry in place. Aesthetically speaking, the majority of other areas around there, we feel aesthetically that's probably the best solution there. In a future slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about the roofing in this area. So there is an option to consider the possibility of doing some of that roofing now if we're already going to be doing work up there, but we have made some remedial repairs to that roof back in summer 2019. So we want to look at that a little bit closer and see if there's some reuse section. So that is the extent of, actually one more piece. So I want to orient you a little bit. So think about the furthest southwest corner of the middle school. That's what this gray shaded area. As a part of the future construction of additional classrooms, 6 additional classrooms that I'm going to show you in a moment, and to address stormwater detention that gets triggered by the addition we just built, we need to add stormwater detention. Essentially, it's a dry basin that in a very large area that would just release water more slowly into your stormwater system. It's called stormwater management. This scope needs to happen as a part of this project to provide the necessary improvements. Will also put you in a good place. Improvements will also put you in a good place where it's already done the next year when classroom wing, the 6th classroom wing is constructed. So that brings us to phase 2B, unless that was 2A. This is the addition, so this is the site plan. We were previously just looking kind of in this area down over here. This is the existing courtyard area, the library, your existing play areas and courts, and existing septic field. So the proposed addition, which would be constructed essentially around summer 24 and into the probably not completely completed at the end of 24, but we'll be exploring that schedule by CI will be constructed. The good news is it sits in a position where some of the existing infrastructure can remain if chosen. There's one area that we're still investigating. Well, first, I just want to kind of update you on the floor plan. I'll get to the site in a minute. We made an adjustment. I know there was a comment about daylight into the STEM and makerspace areas. So we will create an offset in the floor plan. We'll bring some daylight into the circulation, which is another benefit that allow you to maintain windows into that room. And this is, we have an option A and an option B. Option A provides some minimal breakout space similar to the configuration that was just built in phase 1. It is a more conservative approach where you don't have that, and it's essentially an extrusion of the existing, but we made that balancing adjustment. And in both cases, we're indicating dash lines for potential future expansion that would be really a phase 3. So, kind of a funny diagram, but as you might know, there's an older septic field that was constructed in 66 in this courtyard. And so when this addition is built, it'll be in the way, and it'll need to address that. The good news is, this addition is built, it'll be in the way, and it'll need to address that. The stormwater, the septic field that we have now, or the one to the south, is large enough to handle the capacity of sanitary needs that occur in the elementary building that are served by the 66 currently. So the work to do is to connect what was flowing into this septic field into the other septic field. So these red lines represent essentially new 6-inch sewer lines that will connect the dots. This work could happen as a part of phase 2A or 2B. Investigate whether with ICI, will that better facilitate the construction of the classroom addition already done, or is it something that would simply be done in concert with it? I think because we're going to have a site work contractor out here doing some other outdoor site work in phase 2A, there might be a benefit in doing this work now. The other scope associated with this, by the way, is the abandoning or actually literally removing the septic field. It's not as difficult as it sounds. It's piping that sits not terribly deep into the ground, and that gets removed. Some of the soil will be excavated, and this area will be filled, and this new connection will be made. So we're going to still investigate that. If the scope is big enough that ICI feels it would encumber the schedule for this future addition, it might be worth it next month. Dr. Mead?
Is there a drawback to going from two fields to one? Are we putting ourselves at risk relying on a single septic?
We don't believe so. And part of the reason is there's really very little, there are very few toilet rooms that actually feed into the 66 septic field. So we're not putting a whole lot of additional load on a field that already has excess capacity. So you have plenty of excess capacity, and no, we don't see any potential challenge with that.
The question is, what capacity to put those single field to? Is it thinking to be 85–90% capacity? And we're going to have to expand that within a couple of years. We'll keep going up.
So when we put the classroom addition, and I can confirm this with my understanding of the study, felt that this classroom addition could connect into that field as well. But that's when we get into the summer 24 project, we'll study that in a little bit more detail. So you have enough property off to the east. Eventually, if you continue to expand the building, there is space, and you probably would put a new second field eventually. But you have a lot of capacity in this. We had a septic consultant, actually a septic contractor, Mellon, that opened up basically the key places to determine if there was actually, if each cell or each line was being used. And they did produce a report that indicated that there's a fair amount of capacity still remaining. I know I'm not giving you specific numbers, but there's enough capacity remaining in the system to take on the minimal amount that's flowing into the 66 plus this addition. And we have the flexibility to have more. The minimal amount that's flowing into the 66 plus this addition. And we have the flexibility to have more later. Did you have another?
That's the question I was going to ask.
Okay. Yeah. So in the future capacity issue, we kind of confirm that, but for the 23 work, it's just a question of whether we should do that reroute now or later. I mentioned this already, the roofing that surrounds this is due for replacement in this kind of this 2–3 year window. We had done some temporary improvements to it to limp it along and give it more life, extend it, some of this very selective, repair patching. Given that we're going to be doing masonry work up here, I think it's worth considering just doing that roofing scope. The other side of that coin is a conversation with the construction manager again about we'll be doing roofing associated with that addition in the summer of 24. So there's some volume benefit to doing roofing at one time rather than adding a roofing contractor to next summer's work. So I think there's some advantages and disadvantages to that we'd like to spend a little bit more time studying. Does that make sense? All right, that brings us to phase 2C. Phase 2C was really identified as the full north wing and select development and renovation, so it would include going back into this wing. All the improvements that we already made would still be intact. We wouldn't be changing those or replacing them. We go in now and actually do a full HVAC, ceiling, lighting, full finish improvement project in this wing. There's 4 classrooms where I'm kind of hovering over right now. They're kind of small, so we'd be taking the walls out and then making 3 out of 4. But keep in mind when that happens, we've already constructed the addition down here, so losing a classroom will be okay because you'll be gaining, 6 more down there. Other improvements in both this elementary area, it's kind of colored in yellow, would include paint, ceilings, and lighting, so additional improvements in those classrooms. We'll continue to address photo rooms that hadn't been addressed, any doors that hadn't gotten addressed in the previous that maybe weren't violations but are at that point. And that's essentially the scope at that point. But that's a reasonably a big improvement in terms of the classroom environment in those areas, full renovation. So I think, that was the last slide. Any additional questions?
I just have a quick question. This is creating feedback. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you please remind me, is this the original scope that we talked about last? Has anything kind of been added in? Or all included the last time we discussed?
This is the scope we discussed. There were a couple items that when we discussed this 2 months ago that we didn't include and a follow-up walkthrough with Stuart Dane from Lighting Company. We acknowledged there were a couple other areas that we missed. One of them was that exterior brickwork on both currently the 4th grade wing at the very bottom dot down at the bottom. There was some brickwork that was identified. I believe that's the only area that we've added since 2 months ago.
Yeah, I think depending on what we decide on relative to stormwater and relative to the rerouting of this septic connection, we're going to explore that too. If we do the roofing above here, I think we had thought about that as future beyond 2A. If we put it into 2A, that would be additional. But it would have eventually been done.
Right. Okay.
Is there anything in particular around supply chain that you're seeing right now that would have to be taken into consideration relative to plans as they exist today?
Well, I think used to be an issue, particularly mechanical units, electrical switchgear, roofing materials, some of the roofing materials, not all of them, metal lockers. So for this wing, doors and frames have always been a long lead item. So we're not seeing terribly longer long lead than we always were, but we're out to bid a little bit earlier than we were last year. So I think there's time to get those things purchased. Even things like carpet is taking a little bit longer than it did, but I still think we have adequate time for the technical work in this project.
Thank you.
Yes.
I know we're gonna go with bid and all that, the magnitude of cost of this one, like several million, 10 million, like.
So this, that's a good question. Phase 2A was approximately 3.3. That didn't include, I don't believe that included the stormwater management. I'm pretty certain that is on top of it because we were originally going to do that in phase a little bit later, depending on the projects and That right now hasn't been assessed in enough detail to give you a really reliable number. That's my understanding. And I think the 3.3 will fluctuate depending on which way we go with some of these pieces. Like I think right now. And then I did bring the cost on the addition and the phase 2C with me. So we reviewed some of that, I think, at the last meeting, but we could follow up with you on that information. So we'll be issuing October 4 drawings to ICI for 2A. So give that about 3 weeks after that, approximately, for updating the cost.
If we were to say it's 3.3, that's money that we still have available from our bonds.
That is correct.
Any more questions?
It sounds like we're gonna revisit the septic discussion.
I believe that's correct. The initial discussion we had with our septic consultant, the numbers they were giving us were not crazy numbers, which we do believe would still fit within the budgetary parameters of the available funds that we have currently to do the septic work.
Yeah.
One of those choices is more costly in terms of removing what is already there, or putting in the 2 fields. Wasn't one of the options kind of digging out or excavating the current septic field that are in place?
The 66 septic field.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. I think, no matter what this field comes out at some point.
Oh, either way it comes out.
Yeah,
Okay.
the good news is, initially, we don't have to rebuild this field somewhere else in the east initially.
Okay.
We can actually just put in a new sanitary line and reconnect to the bigger field that you already have, which has excess capacity. So that's I would say, a bit of a new finding, and maybe not since last week, but since the original thought was that we just simply have to build new septic fields in that way. So
Okay.
it's actually good
So-
news.
Okay, that's good. I misunderstood that. So it's coming out either way.
And you're just figuring out whether we do it summer 23 or summer 24, that's kind of the biggest.
The good news is, the other thing that you don't see when you construct is what it takes to maintain things over time. So instead of having maintenance on 2 septic fields, you'll have maintenance on 1 septic field, at least until we build more new construction. And until we determine that 6 classroom addition for sure won't require any additional capacity. So initially, it will sort of bring down maintenance a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is Dr. Root is going to give us an update regarding the PGSD contract. And so he's actually gonna take us through, the kind of the back, what happened now that we're at a public posting process and we're at this house and kind of go through, more of the critical things that are where we are, coming to terms. So, Dr.
Thank you,
Root,
Mrs. Shaw. So as you noticed on the way into ninth curriculum night, many members of our PGDSP were outside. Several of them are still in the room with us tonight. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate that. We've been bargaining with the PGDSP support center meeting now since February. Mrs. Shad and Mr. Costa. Now we've added to the mix federal mediator, school attorney, representative from the United. And we're at the point now where we've not yet come to an agreement. We've been relatively close at times on some topics, but we're not close enough yet where we can shake hands and sign off on an agreement and deal. So what our last meeting, which I believe is August the 24th, we had I call it a marathon session. We went into the morning hours and did not quite reach an agreement, but we did come to the conclusion that we needed to take the next step in the bargaining process, and that's the public posting. So the public posting is a posting of each party's most recent offer, and so that gets sent to the LRB, the Illinois Education and Labor Relations Board. The board's document was sent down on September the 8th. PGESP sent theirs in. Question, but they went in on the little before that. They have not yet been posted on the Labor Relations Board website. We do expect those to be up this week. They're supposed to be up within 7 days of the receipt of the posting. So by Friday, I would assume they will have them posted on their website. Kind of going through some of the status, the history. We definitely want to reach an agreement with our support staff union. We firmly believe that we need them. They provide valuable services to our staff, to our students in the community, and it is unfortunate that we have not been able to come to full agreement. We are confident that as we continue to talk, and we will still continue to meet. We have a date coming up later this month, and we will at some point in time reach a fair and equitable agreement that's in everyone's best interest. The current contract did expire on June the 30th. The first is August 22nd, so obviously we've come through the summertime now with no new contract. We are currently using the language, the salaries, the insurance information from the last contract, which should be expired on June 30th. The district priorities have been to obviously deliver excellent education to our students and the community. They've come to deserve and expect that. We expect to competitively compensate our staff at every stage of their career, and we need to ensure that the agreement that we reach is fiscally responsible and allows the board to preserve long-term financial health. So now, in the full document that's currently posted on the board book, it has like 90 plus slides. I'm not going to go through all 90 slides tonight. I've selected the ones that are, I'll call them the key areas, the ones that we have the most disagreement on, or we're the farthest apart on, or the most different in the thought process from the current contract. So you see I'm going to jump from language 1 to language 4. That doesn't mean 2 and 3 aren't important, but in the same time, I'm not going to get all the different points tonight. So the first one is compensation. And the proposal from the board currently is a 5-year contract with increases in each year of 5%, 3.5%, 3%, and 3%. You can see a comparison to the current contract. That contract was based on CPI. 0.08% in 2016-17, 0.7 the following year, 2.1 in the out years. It was based on CPI. I don't think we had a 3% raise in there for the CPI up until this year when CPI is, with inflation, it's extremely high this year. Part of that was definitely well below 4%. In addition to the percentage increases, the board is looking at hourly pay rate adjustments based on each of the categories of classification of the people in this unit. So what we did was we went out and looked at the marketplace. We used a program called Forecast 5, which all the school districts provide information to the State Board of Education. Forecast 5 takes that information, disaggregates the data, makes it available on their website to member districts. We are one of them. We pull information from McHenry, from Kane, DuPage counties, and look at the various areas to see where we were with our rates compared to the markets. In that analysis indicated to us we need to make some adjustments, and the proposal from the board is to make hourly adjustments for every category. You can see them listed here. In 22, 23, and 23, 24, we have dollar per hour adjustments in addition to the percentage increases. So in this situation, the drivers would get 25 cents an hour plus the 5% in year 1, 25% an hour plus 3.5 in year 2. Custodians and office staff are getting $3 an hour on a rate adjustment. If you look back at the previous contract that was done in 2016, 2017, you'll notice that custodians and office support secretaries, then their hourly rate adjustment was 22 cents compared to paraprofessionals and at $1.81, almost 9 times difference. We look at the rates. That obviously has compounded over the years, and every time we go into a multi-year contract, districts around us, people we compare ourselves to, they're on different schedules, and they are negotiating, people are negotiating contracts later this year. That would obviously change the marketplace. We can't predict what other districts are going to do. All we can do is take the data that we have presented to us, and make I won't say an educated guess, but we can definitely look at the marketplace and kind of forecast based on rates of inflation and historical numbers of where things have gone, and try to find a number that puts us in the middle of the marketplace to make us competitive with the folks that we're looking at and trying to attract people for. So as you know, right now we have openings for bus drivers, we have openings for paraprofessionals, we have openings for custodians. Earlier this year, we had an opening in mobile technologists. All of these things are at times difficult to fill. The job market, the labor shortage that we have right now is no different to fill. The job market, the labor shortage that we have right now is no different. And I do know that there are other districts that pay different amounts, and no one's arguing that, but these are rates that the board team has looked at multiple times, and we believe they are fair and market equity. Other items we've looked at. We have made other items we've looked at. We have made proposals that have not been accepted by the bargaining team. We talked about longevity stipends. They have not been accepted so far at this point in time. That's not to say that they're off the table. We certainly still consider including longevity stipends to reward employees for service in the district. Package called 2% IRF. Now, when this was bargained a number of years ago, like these two contracts ago, the thought process was that the district would pick up and pay part of the required employee IRF contribution. So if you see like in the teacher's contract, the teachers are required to contribute to teacher retirement assistance 9%. Currently, the board picks up a portion of that and pays it on behalf of the teachers. IRF does not allow the district or the employer to pay the employee's portion. The contract that was bargained language that said the district would pay that. When it was discovered that that was not available to the district to do, the district instead gave everyone a 2% increase on their salary as an offset for that compensation under the IRF. So we've been paying an additional 2%. So if that person's hourly rate was $15 an hour, we've actually been paying 2% higher than that to the employee every year of the contract. And we continue to pay that. When we looked at our proposals, we shared this, of course, with the PGESP. We explained to them that the 2% IRF, while we're taking that language out of the contract, the money that we spend on that is still in the figures. It hasn't gone anywhere. We're not saving any money. It's money that we already are paying to the employees, and they will continue to pay to the employees. Compensation for new employees. This has been a difficult topic to get to an area that we feel is competitive. If you look at our current rates in the 21-22s that are being bargained back in 2016-2017, we have some starting rates that are under $15 an hour. And yes, it's been brought up to us in the AKU many times that there are a lot of places that someone can go and make a lot more than $15 per hour. And while we agree with them, that's correct. Not many places on Prairie Grove, District 46. And we consider all the folks in the PGESP members of the Prairie Grove family. We certainly want them to maintain their job with us and be happy. But we also have to be able to be competitive and fair. And we have to raise starting rates. And I'm going to talk about, and with this one, I'm going to talk about how we got to these numbers. There's one of the next slides talks about paid holidays. And we've gone back and forth internally with the board team about how can we raise starting rates without having a large tidal wave ripple effect throughout the entire 50 members of the PGESP, bringing the wages up. You know, if the custodian's making $14.73, we're going to bring new people in at 20. If we have people who are under 20, we're going to raise the rates and adequately compensate them, even about $20 an hour. And so one of the ways that we looked at doing that was with paid holidays, and I'll explain that when we get to the slide on paid holidays. These are the rates that we have currently offered for new employees, not currently, this is new people. Drivers are coming in at $19.50, custodians at $20, health clerk at $17.15, paraprofessionals. We have two categories, one's with bachelor's degrees and one's without. We get $16.50 or $17, and office support staff would be $20.50, and the assistant at $19.50 if you're hiring a new person. All of the current employees will have a rate that's higher than that. Another area that we've discussed is additional money toward health insurance for the health savings account. The last contract had $1,500 that the board paid every year into the health savings account for the employees. They could then use that for medical bills, toward the deductible. The current proposal is to increase that from $1,500 to $2,000. Uniforms. We have contract language like where we provide t-shirts for custodial and maintenance staff and weatherproof jacket to transportation staff. Once they finish the probationary period, we replace those as needed. Currently, there's no provision from the board's perspective to continue with that contract language. We would not be buying t-shirts or jackets. Paraprofessionals, language item 31. We've had a lengthy discussion about paraprofessionals that are qualified to substitute in teachers' classrooms. As I know you've heard in the news, we talked about it in this working before, there is a huge labor shortage when it comes to teachers and substitutes. We are blessed to have a handful of paraprofessionals who have a license to be able to teach a class. And yes, we have used them over the last couple of years when our substitute list has shrunk. We have asked our paraprofessionals that have that license to go in and substitute in the classroom. And we acknowledge that that is not their current job duties. And so our current proposal is to pay them extra money, allow them to essentially double dip. We pay their rate currently as support personnel, and then whatever the teacher rate is for the teacher substituting for the teacher, they would get half of that hourly rate added on to their current rate. Plus, we're going to pick up the THRS and THIS that we pay for the teachers. We pick that up for the paraprofessionals as well. Paid holidays. Currently, all employees in this category either receive 8 or 12 paid holidays each year. The current proposal is for the board to no longer pay for holidays. However, all the money that we currently pay to the employees, they keep. Only thing we're taking away are the hours associated with the paid holidays. Those hours count against the calculation to figure out what their annual salary is. Now, I have another slide that will illustrate that. You can bear with me, we'll get to that in just a few moments. Sick leave, current language is 10. We're proposing 11 sick days. Personal leave, we're basing recommendations here for changes. In particular, having greater control over personal leave days that are associated with school holidays and breaks. Everyone loves holidays and breaks, they're lovely. However, it's also most times we have a greatest lack of subs. Our substitutes often take holidays and breaks as well, and they don't necessarily want to take it before or after a break. When our staff takes those days as well, it becomes entirely more difficult to staff classrooms. Unpaid leave, currently there's no provision in the contract for unpaid leave, and we are going to propose that they could take up to 2 days per year. Unpaid leave, vacation leave, we've added some days to the vacation leave. Currently, a first-year employee gets 0 vacation days. We're offering 5, and we made some adjustments to increase the amount of vacation time. So we can have up to 20 days if you're going to 11 years or more. Bereavement leave is a new proposal. Currently, bereavement days are kind of their sick days. This would be additional days. So if you have a death in the family as identified in the immediate household, you take the additional bereavement days. You can also take sick days if you run out of your bereavement time. This would be a new benefit for all PG&E members. Transportation language items we've been discussing. The safe driver bonus. We have made a proposal. The safe driver bonus is only available to drivers. It's $100 per year. If they have chargeable accidents, they pay a $500 stipend to them at the end of the year. One of our discussions was all of our employees expect them to be safe. Custodians, trips and falls hazards. We offer a stipend of some sort for all of our PGDSD employees, not just transportation ones. That did not go over very well. We made some other proposals along the same area with $400 or $500 to give every member of the group Christmas bonus of $100. Not tied to any accidents and was not perceived well. It was not considered at this point in time as a viable option. Just cause proposal, we currently have in the system is non-use of the district approved attendance system. There are others, but these are the two we are down to at the moment. Of course, we're asking for a 5-year contract, which begins after June 27th. Okay, so financial implications. Let's look at the paid holidays. So the board's proposal is to eliminate the hours in paid holidays. So if you have, depending on how many hours a day you work, if you work 6.5 hours a day, your paid holidays worth 6.5 hours. If you work an 8-hour day, your paid holidays worth 8 hours. In the board's proposal, the board saves $0. And it actually costs the board more money each year to not pay for holidays, and I'll explain how we got to that point. Here's an example. If an employee is making $16 per hour, works 7 hours a day, and 180 actual work days, they would receive 8 non-paid work holidays. Their annual salary would be $21,056. The calculation, $16 an hour times 7 hours, $112 per day. $112 per day times 108 days, $20,160. Paid holidays will be worth $896, giving you a total of $21,056. In the board proposal, we changed the employee's rate of pay from $16 to $16.72. They keep the same number of work hours, 7 per day, the same number of actual work days, 180, no paid holidays. The annual salary is $21,067.20. We achieve that by taking the 1672 times the 7 hours a day, 117.04 per day, times the number of work days, $21,067.20. We made this hourly rate adjustment applied to every single member in PGDSP in our proposal. And so then the starting point was 1672, not 16. So let's look at how this compares to a new employee. If you remember back in one of the first slides, we said that new employees' rates would be significantly higher than the current contract. So if we took the board's proposal, and this is on custodial employee. Okay? So the custodial employee, if you recall, was $1,473. We're actually paying $1,503. That's the extra 2% IRF that we pay to the employees. If you put that in your calculation, $1,503 is the starting rate, plus $3 an hour, times 5%, you get $18.94 an hour. An 8-hour workday, 248 actual days, 12 non-work paid holidays, gets you an annual salary of $38,079.12. Same calculations, the hourly rate times the number of hours per day shows you what the cost will be. If you look at with the paid holidays, we're proposing to pay $20 per hour. Okay? Taking out the paid holidays, the rate is $39,680. Okay? $20 per hour, 8 hours a day, 248 work days, $39,680. It's $284 more for a new hire than our proposal without paid holidays than with the paid holidays. 2% IRF, again, board is not saving any money on the 2% IRF. We've already paid the money. We're not proposing to take it away. It's part of the normal calculation. It's already been baked into salaries. Where are we at? We started in January 1. We took that date as our start date. We took all 15 employees who were here on January 1, and the cost of that total for the year, including salaries, stipends, insurance, health savings account, health reimbursements, IMRF, $1,411,000. proposals. If you take the cost on the left-hand side, you have the PGESP proposal, on the right, the board proposal. Yes, that's not a lie. It says the board proposal in year one is 12.41% increase over the prior year. That is correct. And I did provide an appendix in the actual, I don't have it on the screen tonight, but in the board packet or the public posting, you will see the salary, compensation, hourly rates for every single employee as of January 1 who are on the roster. Yes, we acknowledge that some of those folks have left, got other places. That was for the people who we already pre-decided who we're going to be bargaining for, so those are the numbers we would use from day one. So year one proposal, the union's at 15.13, the board's at 12.41. Year two, the union is at 9.16%, the board's at 10.39. You compare that 2 year combined, 24.29 for the union, 22.80 for the board. Year three, 2.98 for the union, 2.42 for the board. And again, this is looking at salaries. 2.31 year four for the union, 2.36 for the board, 2.26 for the union, year five, 2.31 for the board. Total over the 5 years, board proposal is 29.89%, just shy of 30% on it over the 5 years. Again, back to our priorities: deliver excellent education, be competitive on our salaries for all our staff, and make sure that we're being fiscally responsible to the district and taxpayers. Okay? When we look at and we analyze the positions, we look at the marketplace, we try to recognize the quality of the staff that we have, made adjustments when necessary. We believe the board is working in good faith, and we intend to continue to do that moving forward. Total cost of the board's proposal over 5 years, $454,007. You look at year one, every single member of PGESP would receive a 5% pay raise or better in year one. 68% would get 7.5%, 62% a 10% pay raise, and down to the end, 22% will be receiving a 20% pay raise in year one based on the marketplace adjustments. Year two, 68% in year two get a 5%. And up to 12% receive a 20% pay raise in year two. Questions from the board? No questions. Final, these are the major sticking points that we have right now. Substitutes, and having paraprofessionals work as substitutes, one of the big sticking points right now. Leaves, holidays, vacations, field trips. We have had a lengthy discussion about the various tax sheets for extracurricular trips between a regular trip and one standalone Great America trip. Route sharing with transportation, need some language there. Those are the main sticking points that we have left on the table. Obviously, finance is always a sticking point. There's also some language areas to wrap up and get done. Again, our next meeting is September the 24th. It's a Saturday morning at 8:30 to 11:30. We'll be here, Mr. Costa, Mr. Shattuck, and I with our attorney, the PGESP, the mediator, and we certainly hope to reach an agreement that day, if not before. Questions?
So, but are you guaranteeing every year is 5% comes with a 20% raise?
It's year one and year two. This particular slide, that's year one and year two only. Yes. This is Sean.
So, I guess I have a series of questions, but anybody can jump in too. When doing negotiations, you have a spreadsheet, right, for calculations? And that
Correct.
includes every employee that you apply, basically your percentage increase, and how every employee come up with a total cost for it per year.
Correct.
Is that a spreadsheet you also shared with the
Correct. We use the same data to start with.
Okay, so you guys are using the same data and based on the information saying these are the employees So I guess one of my, I have in front of me kind of this letter that we got, which I think was mostly that was dated actually. So I'm just trying to.
Are you looking at the letter from the bus drivers tonight?
No, that one, but I'm looking at another one that I got via mail from the IDA. So I'm just, a lot of times, I've done previous negotiations, and I appreciate everybody that's been participating from both sides, is that sometimes we don't understand what we're trying to achieve, or a greater group of people don't. So I'm just trying to take some statements, and I want to make sure where could that possibly come from, where is this misunderstanding, and maybe point to kind of like, here's this clarification, or where we don't. Is that okay?
I'll certainly try.
Okay, so in here, it was talking about, I guess in general, have we taken away from the county? Like how, I guess, are we adding in money or are we taking away? Because one of the statements is the district will save $434,500 over the course of a 5-year contract. However, looking at your number, you're saying we're putting in money. So I'm trying to understand where would someone say that we're saving, or that the district is saving money, yet we're increasing salary, we're adding this, we're adding that, we're adding this, all these different, for HSA, we're adding in sick days. Where would someone come up with that the district is saving money? We're going to be spending more money over the life of the contract. That's what I'm seeing.
I also read the language provided to us by the IDA, and I am unsure how they calculated their $434,000 savings. I can't replicate that information when I look at the same documents.
Okay.
I can't explain that.
But we are adding up, right? If this is possibly the district money.
This contract that the board has proposed is $454,007 over 5 years.
And so another question I had, so it talks about elimination of retirement contributions. I didn't see anything being talked about retirement here. Is there anything you can like on that?
I would have to assume that they're referring to the extra 2% IMRF contribution from the current contract that we've been paying as salary for a number of years. Currently, we are not reducing any IMRF payments to IMRF.
And then we've talked about the paid holidays, and we've seen the scenarios going through the paid holidays and kind of actually making more money.
The employees would make more money, that's correct.
And we've talked about the uniforms for custodial staff and bus drivers. So another thing would be if I were to, I saw somewhere say, I quit and come back, would I be making less money or more money? Or, like that idea of like someone getting hired in to make more money than someone that is here.
I'm not sure if someone quits and comes back, they can make more money than they would if they stayed. That seems to be a misapprehension or misunderstanding of language. We have currently in the proposal that we want to be able to hire people with experience. Currently, we are tied to 2 years experience. So if we have someone who, let's say a custodian, who has 10 years experience working somewhere else, we can only give them credit for 2 years experience based on the current language of the expired contract. Board's proposal initially was to not have a cap on the number of years of experience. The concern was that then new people coming in could be paid at a higher rate than somebody who's already here with similar amount of experience. So the board did propose, and it is in the full proposal, that if that situation occurs, we would bring any employee up to that same rate of a new hire if they had the same number of experience. So if we had a custodian with 10 years, and we hired him in this, I'm just going to number at $30 an hour, that was the rate. If we had a current employee in that category who had 10 years experience, who was making less than 30, we would bump them to 30. So they would never make less than somebody who's new hire.
So that was in our proposal.
Correct.
So we would be able to give more than 2 years of experience. just watching the type of stuff?
Yes, we want to be able to offer the amount of experience credit based on how many years you have of verified experience, similar to how we do in the teacher's contract. If we hire a teacher who has 15 years experience, we pay them for all 15 years of their experience.
Right, because experience is something that
It's valuable, correct.
it should be valued, and in industry anywhere, like if I look for another job, I'm gonna ask for years. So that makes sense to me, and so then that idea of being someone coming and making more than you is not necessary, unless they have years of experience, what you're saying, so. Like a $30.
Correct. We recognized in the bargaining that was an area that would be difficult to get approved by the full union. So we did propose that if that situation were to come up, we would guarantee we bring that person who's currently on staff, the same amount of credit, up to that level. Of course, we can't calculate it based on what that cost would be. That's based on individuals when they get hired at that point in time.
I mean, his biggest values is, right, we want to value the current employees here, and we want to be attractive to new employees, because we're always going to need more. We're growing, we had in here our population, how it's been growing, and we've done over 170 days the last couple of years. So we're going to need more and more. So we need a contract that will retain and value the current employees and also be attractive to new employees. And from everything you presented, all the different meetings that we've been in, listening and stuff, I mean, I find this to be a very fair and, reasonable contract that is meeting those values of valuing the people that are here along with trying to be attractive in the marketplace so that we can have all the good employees here are very good. So I appreciate everything and how detailed we've gone through this, and I just wish that, miscommunication, understanding, seeking to clarify, those things are happening, and if it needs to be a negotiation, that happens in open, so that everybody can hear the same thing, that I also recommend that, if you want, make Saturday's negotiation an open.
I don't think I can force that at this point in time. We have to mutually agree to do that. It's sort of something we can take to IEA.
I mean, we've done it with the teachers a
Sure.
long time ago, so it's just, transparency, there should be, and this is what we're trying to do with this presentation and the information we put there, is transparency. And where there's misunderstanding, let's clarify.
That's a big question. With that table that showed all the salaries and all that adjustments and stuff, were you, because I know you did it with teachers, but did you sit down with their representatives and go over that so they understood all of that? Like I said, I know you have the table, but did you sit down?
So yeah, the Excel document that we started with, we went over that with PGSB leadership and walked through step by step. Each person that was on there showed each categories and columns where the numbers are tied, and trying to make it as user-friendly as possible so that all we had to do was either change dollar amounts or change percentages, and then that money would flow all the way through a number of years in the contract to give you the dollar amounts.
In the document that we got in the mail, were you able to recreate, I mean, this is our spreadsheet, but were you able to recreate their proposals in our spreadsheet mechanisms?
I can recreate them, except that when you look at the spreadsheet that they presented to you, it's not correct for the first year. Which makes, the first year, if the baseline year is not correct, none of the applicants can be correct. So the very first column doesn't include the safe driver stipends that were paid out. Therefore, the entire spreadsheet is not accurate. If you don't include that, all those numbers in the first year, you won't get the correct dollar amounts over 5 years. You won't get the same percentages over the same 5 years. You can't leave out things or skip steps in a spreadsheet because all the cells are tied together.
Josie, questions? Anybody?
Just to clarify that I interpreted that correctly, that safety stipend that was offered to bus drivers, custodians, kind of across the board,
Yes.
correct? Not just to bus drivers, but across the board. That was, it sounds like turned down.
Correct.
And I'm wondering if any insight was provided as to why that would be turned down, a holiday stipend would be turned down.
I don't know that I have that insight. We're not in the room with PGSP when they're having their discussions. And I can't recall that they actually shared rationale for that. Not that I recall.
Okay, I was just curious if they came back and said, we wouldn't be interested in this because we'd be more interested in X, Y, Z, and it could be used as a.
Sure.
The salary increase you had was 5%.
Yes.
That does not include benefits, though, but that's strictly salary, correct?
The percentages that we showed, the 5% salaries, correct?
But you did add to the HSA from 1,500 to 2,000.
Correct.
How's that? Oh, yeah, we have it on the spreadsheet.
That is on the spreadsheet, correct? Yes.
But that 5% is on the salary.
That's salary, correct?
Anybody else have any other questions? Statements?
With regards to with the letter that I received this evening from the transportation staff, first thing for the letter, appreciate that very much. Read through this and I just want to call out things that I hope were not lost relative to all of the party sessions that we had. We had discussed a lot of these topics that were raised in this letter as an area of concern. But I think each board member received a letter. We had discussed potential for signing bonuses. We increased the healthcare. So there was a good statement here about the stipends for healthcare. We did discuss longevity bonuses. And then, pay competitive with other areas. So we did do quite a bit more relative to what other competitive wages were out there. Big piece of what we're trying to accomplish in this was a right sizing of other areas that drastically need to be addressed, not only to fill positions, but to also maintain employment in those areas as well, which are just as valuable.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you for the information, Dr. Booth. We're going to move on to. May I have a motion to adopt the 2022-2023?
So moved.
Barclay,
Second.
Gwen, okay, discussion. So this is the budget that was presented earlier this morning, sorry. Discussion, okay, then let's have a roll call vote, please.
Stephanie Howard? Yes. Josie Shattuck?
Yes.
Glenn Violet?
Yes.
Barclay Butler?
Yes.
David Costa?
Yes.
Michelle Shaw?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes regular and executive session minutes from August 9, 2022, bills payable, treasurer's report, public act 96-0434, 96-0266, and 97-0609.
So moved.
Barclay and Josie, discussion. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Josie Shattuck?
Yes.
Glenn Violet?
Yes.
Barclay Butler?
Yes.
David Costa?
Yes.
Stephanie Howard? Yes. Michelle Shaw?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, may I have a motion to move the November 8th board meeting to November 15th, 2022?
So moved.
Barclay and Stephanie, discussion. November 8th is a holiday, election day, so we're going to do it the following week. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Okay, may I have a motion to approve resolution 2022-16 for evidence-based funding allocation?
So moved.
Barclay? Stephanie, discussion? Dr. Butte, you want to just go a little recap?
Sure, in years past, we split the EDF funding between 30 and 10. This year, we're going to put it all in the education fund 10 and make the transfer later in the year to pay the bond issue for the alternate bonds. That's what we agreed to do as the funding source for those revenue bonds to use the EDF money.
Any questions? Roll call vote, please.
Gwen Byron,
Yes.
Berkeley Butler,
Yes.
David Costa,
Yes.
Stephanie House,
Yes.
Josie Shattuck,
Yes.
Michelle Shaw.
Yes.
Motion carried.
May I have a motion to adjourn at 8:17 PM?
So moved.
Barclay and Josie, discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.